and as you can judge by the title and the cover of this video, I have a very nice surprise for everybody who is interested in Fiesta Mark III's. Since I've owned Project Ruby, I've got to know quite a few Fiesta Mark III owners, especially the early cars. There's quite a few of us, and I'm talking about sort of 1989 cars or even F registration cars, which is quite a rare thing to see, and hopefully very soon you will see more than a few of them in the same place, thanks to the group that me, Sean and Steve have started. But one of the members and one of the very early cars as part of that group we're going to look at today, because I'm up here in Scotland just to do a few jobs and well, put it this way, to make connections. And this car, wow, it's a survivor. Come and take a look. Oh yes, we have another F-Reg Mark III Fiesta. Ghia, as you can denote on the sides. This car has been, if you type Fiesta Mark III 1989 into Google, this car comes up quite a few times, and I think there were a few photos taken when it was in Manchester. So Mark, the current owner, bought it from Manchester a few years ago for a nice sum. This is an extremely low mileage survivor, F634 DTG. It's travelled about a bit in its life, but it hasn't done that many miles. So as you can see, we have been an early F-Reg car. There was only two options, or three options in terms of engines: the 1 litre Kent engine, the Valencia HCS, or the 1.1, which this is. Now, you could only get the 1.1 with a Ghia. You could have the 1.4 CVH that Ruby has, but that's quite rare. This is common. Most Mark III Ghias have got either a 1.1 or the later 1.3 HCS version of this engine. Okay, this is what you would see under the bonnet. This is a nice gearbox, you know, common run-of-the-mill, 5-speed. It was only 4-speed on the 1 litre, which should be on your Fiesta Popular. But this being a Ghia, we have a 5-speed BC box. Quite standard up front. We're doing a few jobs to this currently. It is currently having obviously a thermostat and water pump. I did the the front discs and pads yesterday, genuine ones, all fitted like a T. In fact, I think the old ones are over here in this box. I think they've done their day. Quite scored. The pads were okay actually, and this is the old water pump, which is not the original. It hasn't got Ford written on it, and it is a plastic impeller. I can tell you how easy that was to change. And we've got the new one, which is a genuine one. And as you can tell, it's Stratos silver, and that for me is one of the nicest metallic, probably apart from Matisse blue. This is one of the nicest colours ever to go on an early Mark III. It's the colour that you would see on a lot of the press photographs, especially the press demonstrator photographs that I've got. It's how it would have been presented at launch. So this was a really nice metallic colour. I think it was replaced by Moondust Silver later on, which is weird because Moondust Silver is not as grey silver. This is a dark grey silver, or more like a on Focus Mark 1's a machine silver sort of colour. It goes really well, and it's been so nicely preserved over time. It's been mostly garaged all its life. Got a few lovely little stickers of the past just staying there. So this has obviously had some sort of Moss car alarm system at one stage. Yep, I think they've all had them at some point. It's got things like, Ruby doesn't have one of these no more. It's got the original lock for the fuel filler cap. Many of them get broken over time or seized. I'm afraid Ruby was one of them. But, my goodness me, I'm afraid we got the most inappropriate tow bar. Yeah, I can't believe that would have been fitted originally with the downturned exhaust. This would have had a sort of straight pipe that Ruby has. But like I say, I was extremely lucky to get that. As Ruby would have one of them as well. That's what you would see on a Mark III from around 1990-91. Mark, where was this registered, as far as you're aware?
I think it was Wales.
Wales.
Yeah,
So that's come a long way. So it's gone from Wales to Manchester.
And then I bought it in 2000. Well, just before COVID, before the first lockdown, I got it.
Got you. Goodness me. And that was you paid a decent sum, but it was because of the mileage. And I'll come in here. We are doing some revinyling, by the way. This is the other job actually, because I'll come around to this side and I'll show you actually. Like Ruby, the vinyl's just gone sunburnt over time and it's just gone a grey. So we're doing that. That's a nice little job today, along with the water pump. So if we come in here, we got the usual smell. We've got the usual smell of these, very nice seats. That I just say these seats have actually done really well. In fact, the back seats are much better than what Ruby's was, especially the seat pads. They are quite good actually. This car has just recently passed its MOT with flying colours. We've got the original badge that hasn't faded, unlike Ruby's. It's in his paw. This car has done 21,000 miles, just under 22,000 miles. That's ridiculous. This is just running in. I mean, that's absolutely nothing compared with I thought Ruby was a low mileage. It isn't. This is one of the most low mileage Mark III's that I've seen. I mean, even the condition of the steering wheel, it's hardly being used. It is exactly the same in this department here. We've got the balancer over here. We've got no heated screen, that's usual, and no fogs because that was an XR2, I think. That's why you got the two blanks, that's quite normal. We've got the usual console area with obviously a 5-speed reverse on the right-hand side, as typical, with a BC box. A very, very nice slick box. A decent, I would put it this way, it's not as crunchy as what had gone before, put it that way. The cigarette lighter is barely being used. Typical, really. Not a non-smoker. Sunroof, which is variably adjustable, as always with these. Might have been some sort of stick up there, it looks like. But really, a very nice survivor. Even the armrests aren't really scratched up. Obviously, these armrests are a unique thing on the Ghias and the XR2Is, the RS Turbos. It's only really a thing on these, very much so. But there's nothing. There's hardly the sills. This is one thing I will say actually. So this car was registered on June the 16th, 89. So that's exactly a month after Ruby. Okay. One thing I would note is that we have had a patch done at the rear here. Okay, it's the only form of welding this car has received. So eventually they will all go the same way. We've got a couple of new additions at the rear here, new shocker at the back, and a few things done. But look at the sills. It's very, very solid. But interestingly, it's grey coloured. It has been painted in the two-tone grey completely, whereas Ruby has diamond white on that part of the sill, like they missed it out. Now, only the very, very, very early cars received that treatment, and it might be connected to the chassis number. Now, this is rather interesting because Ruby is a VSS chassis number. That is a Spanish-built Valencia build, whereas this, if you can see, is an SFA. That means that this is a Dagenham car. So somewhere between Ruby and this car, a month apart, there was a switch between production coming from Valencia and production coming from Dagenham. Now, all I can assume is that the cars, for the first 2 months of the launch in 1989, so from April the 15th, virtually, when they were launched, to around sometime, maybe around late May, they switched to Dagenham being the main producer of UK registered Mark III's. I'm assuming that Valencia simply manufactured all the European cars from then on. It was something really new that we weren't aware of. So Ruby might be one of the last, we don't know. So only for the first month and a half did you have Spanish-built Mark III's been registered in the UK. Are there main differences? There was a few little niggly differences. I've got a feeling that the paintwork on the sills, being the all grey, is one of those factors as well. That's a sort of identifying factor. There's things I've noticed. This seam sealer, look at that. Now, Ruby does not have this seam sealer around the strut towers. This is something we noticed really, really early on. Ruby just has this piece of metal for the turret and this piece of metal for the bodywork, but there's no seam. It's the same with this. Ruby does not have any. Look at this. Look at the way they've just slashed the seam sealer straight on, and they've painted over the top. That hasn't been done. That hasn't been done later on. This was how it was coming out, and yet Ruby just has two pieces of metal with no seam sealer. So little tiny differences. So obviously the Dagenham built cars had a little bit more of a thoroughness to the way they were sealed up, and there would have been a lot of little things they did. But ultimately we've got a lot of these stickers still intact here, which I really like actually. Just how to gap your plugs, etc. And just a few little things to add on, but ultimately mostly original in here. So I am going to be doing a few little jobs on this. Battery tray, yeah, well, unfortunately this is the problem, that the battery trays tend to go like that because battery acid and all that. That's why manufacturers started going from metal to plastic. But apart from that, all pretty normal actually. It's had a new downpipe fitted, yes, and this has had quite a new exhaust fitted. If I can just veer underneath, and I will. Yeah, so new downpipe. It's had a new middle box down there. Even the cradle looks really good actually. It's had new arms at the front, which is why the bushes look so good actually. It's had some money spent on it. The valance is really, really nice. So the overall condition, very original, very, very original. Just as usual, there's a little bit of bubbliness towards the bottom end of the sill here, but it's absolutely minimal. Eventually they all need a little bit of metal work, but that's great. Honestly, what a lovely original car with a dealership sticker in the back window. So there you go, guys. Just a little bit of a walk around. I'm doing a bit of a water pump change, bit of revinyling, and that's really it for today. This might get a steering coupler as well, because again, one of the things that I didn't actually show with Ruby, it might be a future episode, is the steering coupler down there. So little thing here and there. We're just giving a bit of a flush out just to get rid of all the excess, but that is that. So I'm going to leave you be. Just a little bit of a walk around, a nice little timepiece. There was about 20 F-Reg examples left, and seeing any of them is really, really nice. So I'll leave that there. Take care, guys. All new water pump there, all sorted. Had an oil change at the back. Just do oil filter hanging around there, much more easier to access. Some fresh antifreeze, red OAT, and ultimately on the bottom. Lovely. Very, very smooth. There you go.